家好，我是小杨，欢迎来到无声的呐喊。
Hello, everyone. I am Xiaoyang. Welcome to Silent Cry. Today is March 22nd, 2026. In this episode, let us explore a rather private topic together. How long has it been since you last had an intimate life? Over the past year, there have been 3 sets of data that were honestly quite surprising. The condom industry has gone completely cold. Sales have declined for 4 consecutive years. The number of companies that have shut down has exceeded 78,000 in total. On average, about 17,300 companies have been forced out every year. Even well-known little pill brands like Jingya stumbled last year too. Both sales and revenue declined. When you calculate it out, they were selling 36,000 fewer pills per day than before. Overall, that was a drop of 13.2%. What hurts even more is that surveys show more than half of those born after 1995 have sex less than once a week. And another 14.6% of men and 10.1% of women, even if they have a steady partner, did not do it frequently at all over the past year. Logically speaking, this should be the easiest era for romance and intimacy. With one swipe on a social app, you can meet someone. Transportation is convenient too. Hotels are everywhere on the streets, and young people, relatively speaking, have a much more open attitude towards sex now. It is no longer like the old days, when everything had to be hidden and avoided. If you want to meet someone, it is much easier than it used to be. And yet today's young people have become the generation of 3 no's. Not dating, not marrying, not having children. Experts look at these numbers and say that China has entered a low desire era. But there is another phenomenon that creates a huge contrast. The emotional products industry has become more popular instead. Sales revenue rose by 8% year on year. Compared with 2019, it has directly doubled. Foreign adult websites are even more dramatic. With just 46 employees, one of them can make 7.2 billion US dollars in a single year. When you put these 2 extremes side by side, the truth becomes very clear. The sexual needs of young people today do not necessarily require 2 people anymore. To put it bluntly, young people are not without desire. They are deliberately suppressing it because desire is expensive. It is exhausting too. For men, chasing women costs both time and money. And in the end, it still may not lead anywhere. The cost-performance ratio is simply too low. So instead of going through all that trouble, many just stop wanting a relationship at all. It is no wonder flowers are no longer selling. Diamond prices have collapsed. Movie attendance has hit historic lows. That old economy, where simps paid the bill for everything, has completely died out. And on the women's side, it is the same. They are no longer dressing up just to please men. Annual sales of high heels are down by 30%. Lace lingerie sells worse year after year. Black stockings and bright red lipstick are no longer things people rush to buy. The sexy economy became outdated a long time ago. Now women are much more willing to spend money on making themselves happy.
负债了300万，离婚贷吧。
3 million yuan in debt, a divorce that came too late, all of your parents' retirement savings drained away by your choices. You have lived your life into a complete and utter failure. I am 40 years old this year, divorced, raising a child on my own, and carrying 3 million yuan in debt. In Changchun, I am holding on to a noodle shop that stays open 24 hours a day. I have become in other people's eyes the most miserable woman of all. Hello everyone, my name is Wang Simiao. I was born in 1986. Right now in Changchun, I run a handmade banh mi and noodle shop, and also a traditional hot pot restaurant. Today I want to open up the wounds of the past 10 years and tell you everything. This is not about asking for pity. I just want to tell those who are like me, stuck in rock bottom and unable to climb out, that no matter how hard it gets, do not admit defeat. When my son was 17 and in college, I was carrying that reckless kind of confidence, the kind that does not know how high the sky is or how deep the ground is. I took my parents with me, held my child in my arms, and together with my husband, we threw ourselves headfirst into the restaurant business in the South. Back then, we understood nothing. We poured more than 1 million yuan into opening a barbecue restaurant. We worked from early morning until late at night, Before the sky was even bright, we were already at the market picking meat. At 2 or 3 in the morning, we were still cleaning up. We had no time to look after the child, no time to go home. We had only one thought in mind: to make the business succeed. Later, the barbecue restaurant slowly became popular. Then we opened a hot pot ingredients shop, and also 2 marinated duck shops. At that time, one person was really being used like several people. All I wanted was to make more money. But fate slapped me hard across the face. Then the pandemic came. Overnight, all the shops were shut down. All the goods went bad. Not only did we lose every single cent we had earned, we lost everything. And not only did we lose it all, we were left carrying more than 2 million yuan in debt. I was like a stray dog that had lost its home, dragging my whole family back to Changchun in silence and shame. When we returned to Changchun, we had no money at all. We could only scrape things together from here and there to open this tiny little banh mian shop. What I will never forget the most was that year during the pandemic. There was no noodle pressing worker in the shop at all, so my husband stepped in and did it himself. The noodle machine roared to life, and in an instant, everything went wrong. His hand was pulled directly into the noodle press. When I got the phone call, my mind went completely blank. By the time I ran to the shop, I saw his left hand, wrapped in layer after layer of thick gauze. Blood had already soaked through the gauze and was still seeping out. At that moment, it felt like the sky had collapsed on top of me. In my heart, I thought, it is over. There is no way this hand can be saved. I just stood there completely frozen. I could not even say a word. I cried so hard at that moment, like I had completely fallen apart. And only then did I notice, even with sweat pouring down his forehead, even while clutching the pillar beside him, his whole body trembling, he still gritted his teeth and turned around to comfort me instead. He said, "It is okay, honey. Do not cry. It does not hurt." He stayed in the hospital for more than a month, 2 surgeries, and 1 skin graft. Only after all that, we were finally able to save his hand. But right at that very moment, the rent came due again. Every cent we had already been thrown into medical bills. We could not take out even 1 more yuan. The landlord blocked me at the door, pointed at my face, and cursed me. The things he said were unbearably harsh. I crouched in the corner by the wall and cried until I could barely breathe. At that moment, I did not even have the strength to say a single word back. In the end, I could only force myself to borrow money from a few of my sisters just to pay the rent. At that time, I truly felt like the sky was falling. From that moment on, my husband and I were both holding one breath in our chest, one stubborn force. We worked day and night, and that is how we kept this noodle shop going. I worked the day shift. He worked the night shift. The shop stayed open 24 hours, turning non-stop. We never closed the doors. We truly did not rest. And I made one strict rule for myself. Every ingredient had to be checked personally by me. A bowl of noodles cost just 10 yen, and refills were free. If you came to my shop, then I had to make sure you left full, warm, and with peace in your heart. Relying on that stubborn determination, the little shop slowly started to become popular. More and more regular customers came back. Business gradually got better little by little. But when life starts going smoothly, people are very easily carried away. I expanded blindly. I pushed the old shop to the side and ran off to open a second shop on the busiest part of Gillen Road. But I forgot one thing. What I was selling was a 10 yuan bowl of banh mian. That kind of business simply could not support rent in a prime golden location. In the end, the second shop closed. More than 300,000 yuan from the house my parents sold was lost completely down to the last cent. After struggling like this for so many years, I was exhausted. My whole person had gone numb. I felt like I no longer understood how to do business at all. So I thought, if I cannot figure it out on my own, then I will join a franchise. Then online, I came across Dahui. I thought he seemed honest and reliable. And once again, I gambled everything I had. I took out loans of more than 1 million yuan, emptied out all of my parents' lifetime retirement savings, and in one breath opened 2 Wanfalu stores. All I could think about was turning my life around. Looking back now, that was not courage. That was sheer recklessness. Once again, I threw all of my energy into it, and the noodle shop was completely abandoned to the side. And let me tell you this, A husband and wife really should not go into business together. When your ideas do not match, conflicts keep exploding again and again. In the end, the hot pot restaurant lost more than 1 million yuan, and my marriage, too, finally came to its complete end. Yes, I got divorced. During that period, I asked myself every single day, Wang Ximiao, how did you turn your life into this 3 million yuan in debt? A divorce that came too late. All of your parents' retirement savings drained away by your carelessness, and you have ended up living as a complete and utter failure.
好久没有跟大家报营业了，我感觉
It has been a long time since I last updated everyone on how business is going. I feel like today has been the worst day of this entire year. Right now it is 5:22. I do not know for all of you business owners out there how much your sales have reached by this hour. Let me tell you, I have not even sold 2,000 yuan worth today. And the rent is 190,000 yuan. I have not even sold 2,000 yuan worth. I need 4,500 yuan just to stay stable. I really do not know what your situation looks like right now. I can only talk about my own situation. I am not speaking for anyone else. I am only speaking for myself. Do you know what our situation is like right now? Every day, it is not about making money at all. It is just about breaking even, or rather losing money. We work 17 hours a day, getting up at 6:30 in the morning and working until midnight. Basically working 17 or 18 hours for nothing. If you go out and work for someone else, at least you can still earn a wage. But if you just keep guarding this place and refusing to let go, let me tell you something. Forget wages. You cannot even earn enough for one day's meals. What is going on, business owners? How much longer do you think we can keep going like this? If this continues, then sooner or later, walking away will be inevitable. I am telling you, my heart truly feels ice cold. Lately, I do not even want to ask about sales anymore. The moment I ask about sales, do you know what happens? I cannot sleep at night. It is really too bad, far too bad, now that the year has started and the holiday is over. Are you all going through the same thing? Say it out loud so I can feel a little more balanced inside. Oh, I have embarrassed myself in front of all of you. I have let everyone down. We invested 5 million yuan in Kunpeng Plaza to open this store starting today. It is officially closed for good. Ever since this store opened, it feels like nothing ever really went smoothly. Just take hiring, for example. Sometimes there were people I had not even properly met yet. And then, my God, they were already quitting. We really did put a tremendous amount of time and energy into this place. But if I can say one thing about this location, it is that the effort we put in was completely out of proportion to what we got back. Because honestly, there was just no real foot traffic inside, outside this place. The area beyond our storefront looked packed, completely full. But inside the stores, there were no people. Every brand had a deposit to pay, because at that time we had signed cooperation agreements. And with those deposits, you had to reach a certain sales target within the year before they would return the money to you. For a single brand, some deposits were 150,000 yuan, some were 200,000 yuan, and that money, you simply could not get it back. So after calculating everything, our losses came to 8 million yuan. To be honest, it feels devastating, because when we informed the staff and the store manager that we were closing the store, everyone was heartbroken. A lot of employees said, for ordinary people like us, we might never earn that much money in our entire lives. No matter what the original purpose was, when we opened this store, to see it end like this after only 1 year still feels incredibly painful. Because throughout this whole year, we struggled so many times. But in a place like this, you just cannot see any hope. If you're still watching, comment 1 so I know you're still with me.
我应该是80后里面混得最差的那一个了吧。
I am probably the one from the post-80s generation who has ended up in the worst position of all. Today I am sitting inside my fruit shop that has just gone bankrupt. It is completely empty. I have been sitting here for more than 2 hours, and my heart feels so heavy. So I wanted to face the camera and talk to everyone a little bit about the road I have walked and give a simple introduction about myself. My name is Zhu Jia. I was born in 1988. I am from Sanhe Langfang, Hebei. Our city is not very big. The place where I was born and raised was all countryside. Later, I went through 8 attempts at starting a business, 8 failures. And now my situation is this. I owe more than 300,000 yen in outside debt. I have accomplished nothing. I have one flood-damaged car. This is my current reality. The first shop in my life was a clothing store that my older sister and I opened together as partners. At that time, business was actually pretty good, but the two of us were too eager for quick success. We kept thinking how wonderful it would be if the money in front of us could suddenly become much more. That was how we thought back then. So after running the clothing store for just half a year, because we were too anxious to make money, and anyone who has ever opened a shop knows this. From opening a shop to nurturing a shop, how could it be possible to make all your money back in just half a year? Later, the two of us closed the shop. After we closed it, the money we used back then had been given to me by my parents-in-law. The startup money for that shop was 22,000, no 25,000 yuan. After we stopped running the clothing store, I could not just stay at home doing nothing. So I went to work for the vegetable and fruit shop that my father and my uncle had opened together as partners. It was also in that shop that I learned some experience about fruit. During the time when I was working in my father's and uncle's shop, those 8 months, I got up every day at around 4 o'clock in the morning. After getting up, I would just wash my face. I would not even put on any skincare oil. I would go straight to the shop and start working. And I would not go home until 9 o'clock at night. Even though it was exhausting, it felt fulfilling. My father and my uncle taught me a lot of things. The biggest thing I learned from them in business was that honesty comes first. So later, every time I opened a shop, I always treated my customers with sincerity. After working there for 8 months, I happened to try a serving of sushi by chance. And at that moment, the idea of opening a shop came again. Then I talked it over with my husband, and he agreed. So the two of us went to Changzhou in Jiangsu to visit and study at the sushi headquarters. We stayed there for 2 weeks. After coming back, we started renting a place and renovating it. At that time, my son should have just turned a little over 3 years old. Later, after the renovation was finished, we started bringing in equipment and ingredients. Then the shop opened. During the trial opening period, it exploded across the whole city. It was unbelievably popular. At that time, I thought to myself, I chose the right industry. Every day I worked with so much energy. But after operating for about half a year, things started going downhill. Because at that time, I really did not have much ability. I did not know how to find a way to fix things. Instead, every day I just sat there worrying. I kept thinking, oh no, there are no customers anymore. What should I do? Why are there fewer people day by day? And then I started falling into self-doubt. I felt like I was not capable. And at that time, I also did not use my brain to seriously think about it, to think through how this business should move forward and how it should continue. So just like that, I kept going in a dazed and clumsy way for more than a year. Then I could not afford the rent anymore. So I found a cheaper location and moved the sushi shop there. At this new place, I expanded into selling pizza, fruit boxes, Mila crepe cakes, braised pork rice, and cold noodles. I tried all of them. I sold all of them. But in the end, none of those things could save the sushi shop. Later, after thinking it over, I felt I still needed to do an industry that appealed to the general public more. So I added fruit to the business. I still remember that on the first day we sold fruit, the fruit we brought in was sold out almost immediately. Everyone was very supportive because I already had a customer base too. Sushi is more of a niche product, but fruit is something every household needs. At that time, I became happy again, but I have always been the kind of person who gets immersed in that feeling, that excitement when something has just begun. And then the moment I see a little bit of success, I start floating downward again. Maybe I am just the type who cannot hold steady. That is how I am. After I added fruit, the sushi shop slowly started transforming. Eventually, it turned directly into a fruit shop. Selling fruit did not make me big money, but it could cover my expenses. It could cover my own daily spending. But I just had to keep looking at the next mountain, thinking the mountain ahead was higher. When I saw other people making money in online reselling, I also, while I was running the fruit shop, I started doing online reselling too. That was the most wrong decision I've ever made in my life. At that time, I clearly could have lived without so much pressure, because just by selling some fruit, I could cover my own pocket money. But I was unwilling to accept my current situation. Lying there on the heated bed, all I could think about was making more money, more money, more money. There was only one thought in my mind, and it was completely out of line with my actual ability. I fell straight from the sky to the ground, and then into the bottom of a valley. I could not recover for years. I borrowed hundreds of thousands of yuan from relatives and friends. The pressure on me every day was so heavy I could barely breathe. At that time, the company would tell you, you need to have inventory in your hands. Only then will you have confidence. Otherwise, what are you going to sell? That was what they said. So I borrowed money wherever I could to stock up. The goods arrived. Looking at that huge pile of products, at first I felt reassured. But how much could you really sell in a day? The products were piled up like a mountain. I panicked. At that time, I slapped myself across the face several times. I said to myself, why was I so unwilling to accept the life I already had? Why did I insist on stirring things up and trying to force out something bigger? That really, truly was the most wrong decision I had ever made. Later, because the rent for the shop I was running at that time was too high and I could not afford it anymore. After I could no longer pay it, I found a cheaper place inside a residential community. I remember it should have been around 10,000 yuan at that time. The fruit shop moved there, and even that money was borrowed too, because in my hands, everything was already full of holes. After moving into the residential community, I sold fruit, snacks, and all kinds of miscellaneous things. I stopped doing online reselling. Let me think. That should have been in May of 2019. By then, my shop had already moved into the residential community. One of our customers had a restaurant at that time called Busher Restaurant. He wanted to transfer it, and my heart became restless again. I was desperate to turn my life around. So later, I found my close friend, and I said, let us take over that restaurant together. Let us run a restaurant. I could tell that my friend, because I kept going to her and talking to her about it over and over, was really forcing herself to give it a try because of me. She did not really want to do it, and later, things turned out exactly as she had imagined. The two of us became extremely strained because of running that restaurant together. It ended very unpleasantly. A friendship of many years ended up being damaged because of that restaurant, to the point that the two of us did not contact each other for several years. I know that this was also my fault. This was another wrong decision I made. After the two of us ran it for a few months, because we had fallen out, we could not continue anymore. Then my father took over the mess we had left behind. And right after he took it over, the pandemic hit, because he took over that restaurant and ran it. He ended up losing 150,000 yuan. At that time, my father even comforted me. He said, who can go through an entire lifetime without ever losing money? Before that, when I had done business, I had never lost money either. But 150,000 yuan for my father, who worked from dawn to dusk, was truly not easy money to earn. That 150,000 yuan was so hard earned. I am sorry, Dad. Because of the pandemic, my fruit shop's business actually got better. During those 3 years, it felt like heaven itself was chasing me and feeding me. And just like that, the money the fruit shop made during those years helped me fill the holes in my debts. Then the pandemic passed. At that point, shouldn't I have settled down? Shouldn't I have just focused properly on running my fruit shop? Well, right. But I did not. I made that same mistake again. The deadly mistake of wanting to make a lot of money fast. Later, I partnered with a friend to open another shop. And in the end, I got cheated. Then all the money I had borrowed got swallowed up again. So in the end, that is why I still have more than 300,000 yuan in debt today. At that point, I wanted to calm down and focus seriously on running the fruit shop. So I moved the shop from inside the residential community to outside the community to the very place where I am sitting now. I moved it here. This is an urban village. And once again, my choice was wrong. This location is simply not suitable for selling fruit. Selling vegetables would be okay because it is in a village area. When I first moved here, business was actually pretty good in the first year. At that time, there was not yet this kind of economic downturn. But throughout the entire year of 2025, things just kept declining again and again. This is what it means when heaven gives you a chance and tells you to cherish it, but you do not cherish it. And now by the time you finally wake up and understand, everything is already too late. Before we dive into all of this, let us know in the comments where you're watching this video from. Connecting with viewers across the world is a huge source of inspiration for us. Over the past 30 years, China's economy went through a period of explosive growth. A huge amount of wealth became concentrated in the hands of men. Capital quickly and keenly realized something: men's money is actually very hard to harvest directly. But if you tie products together with love, then a man's wallet will start pouring out like a faucet that cannot be turned off. So we were fed an entire set of logic. If you love her, buy her a designer bag. If a man does not spend money on you, then he does not love you. A sense of ceremony is the only standard for testing love. In that kind of narrative, beauty was turned into something sacred, something rare and scarce. And marriage and romance gradually became a one-way transfer of wealth. In order to match those artificially raised expectations, ordinary men had no choice but to keep giving endlessly like simps. This was not just emotional humiliation. It was financial debt too. Among the online loan customers back then, a considerable number of them were borrowing money just to satisfy the goddess in their lives. That era was a delicate bubble, held up by debt. So why does this logic no longer work in 2026? First, the broader economy has receded. As high-income sectors like finance, the internet, and real estate were adjusted, that social class, which once could casually transfer 1,314 yuan at any moment, found its cash flow drying up. And once those big spenders started tightening their belts, the very foundation of the face-saving economy collapsed. Second, men in this generation have started returning to rational thinking. Charlie Munger once said, "If you cannot accurately calculate the cost, then you are making a stupid decision." Young people now have started calculating the ROI of love and marriage with extreme seriousness. They realize that spending half a year's salary on one luxury bag might only get them a group photo on the other person's social media without them in it, plus a demand for an even more expensive gift next time. In the eyes of any investor, this is a doomed project from the start, a high-leverage bad debt with no return. So men have started deleveraging. They no longer want that kind of hostage-style, unfair relationship model. If you want face, and I want a real life, then there is no point forcing it. That is why in 2026, the proportion of men choosing not to marry and not to have children is 2.4 times that of women. But capital never rests. The moment it realizes it can no longer profit from cutting down male consumers, it immediately turns the ship around and begins the consumerism 3.0 era of harvesting women instead. Have you noticed? Movies today no longer focus on sweet romance. Now they are almost all centered on feminism-themed stories. Capital understands this very clearly. If it wants women to buy tickets, then it has to produce things that make them feel good. Capital has launched a precise three-layer attack targeting women. The first is appearance anxiety. Even though the industry went through a small reshuffle in 2025, cosmetic touch-ups and wellness products targeting refined, independent women are still appearing one after another without end. They do not allow you to age, and even more than that, they do not allow you to accept yourself. The second is identity anxiety. They package barren, empty corners of the world into trendy internet-famous check-in spots and tell you that only by going there have you truly lived. The third is emotional harvesting. Through social media, they promote ideas like, you can buy flowers for yourself, you can be your own queen. It sounds beautiful, but the price behind it is that women's debt rates are soaring. Many girls born after 2000, just to maintain that cloud version of stylish living and that fake sense of refinement, are borrowing money across multiple platforms. And when the dream ends, the debt remains. That is the wreckage left behind after capital has finished harvesting. In this avalanche, the only market that is truly rising is called the cost-performance economy. In 2026, young people have completely detached themselves from blind brand worship. They go to 1688 to find factory direct manufacturers. They buy yoga pants for just a few dozen yuan. They line up at Mixu ice cream and tea, dragging the average milk tea price per customer down from 30 yuan to 9.9 yuan. What this shows is that people have finally figured something out. Life is meant to be lived for yourself, not for your hongyuken to look at. That kind of social identity, propped up by luxury logos, has already become a burden in an age where cash flow is tight. It is expected that in 2026, China's cost-performance market size will exceed 121 trillion yuan. And that means one thing: those overpriced stupidity taxes can no longer be collected so easily. The collapse of the simp economy is in essence a kind of consumer awakening. It means people are finally realizing that in an era full of uncertainty, cash flow is the only true king. That old age, the one supported by face, by debt, and by vanity, has completely come to an end.
我有一个很强的预感，今年好多女生着急要结婚。
I have a very strong feeling that this year a lot of women are in a hurry to get married, pushing their boyfriends to borrow money to scrape together a bride price. But the truth is, a lot of men are already exhausted. They have simply chosen to lie flat and not get married at all. They cannot afford to marry, and they do not even have the energy to keep dating anymore. I strongly feel that within no more than 3 years, a lot of women will suddenly start to panic, and then they will turn around and question their boyfriends. I do not even care about money anymore, so why are you still not marrying me? Because right now the ratio in the matchmaking market is seriously out of balance. There are far too many women compared to men. But men are unwilling to go. They all know it is a trap. And after a few more years, for quite a number of older single women, their age will rise even further. Meanwhile, younger girls may actually be willing to accept older men. In that kind of situation, it will be like what happened with certain women in Hong Kong back then. At first, their standards were extremely high. But later, when they got older, they could only settle for foreign men or older men just to get married. I have a feeling that in the future, a lot of women will keep lowering their standards. No bride price, no house. Even renting a place and getting married will be acceptable, all just so they can get married. Why is the marriage rate so low now? Because men cannot make enough money. Then why is the divorce rate so high? Still, because men cannot make enough money. Then why is no one having children? Again, because men cannot make enough money. So the responsibility is not on us women. Men keep pushing. Come on.
今天跟几个本科的学生聊天，
Today I was chatting with a few college students. I asked them one question: what are your plans for the future? And every single one of them gave the same answer. Honestly, it made me feel uneasy inside. Their answer was no real plans. And this is not an isolated case. It is widespread, not just among students still in school. Young people who have already entered society are the same. Confusion has become the word they mention most often. But have you ever thought about this? When confusion becomes the norm, something especially frightening quietly begins to happen. Desire starts to fade away. A person's desire for life was originally the force that pushed society forward. But now, many young people have lost that desire. They are unwilling to work steadily, unwilling to get married and have children, unwilling to buy a house or a car. Instead, they throw themselves headfirst into games and entertainment that can briefly stimulate their nerves. And the deeper they sink, the worse it gets. When this low desire mindset shows up in the economy, it looks like weak consumption. And I have thought about the root cause of all this for a long time. I feel the most critical point is this: the gap between reality and those loud, overhyped dreams is simply too huge. Young people all know very clearly that no matter how hard they fight, they still cannot turn the fantasy of 100 million into 1 billion into reality. If something stays out of reach, no matter how hard you try, that is a fantasy, only something you can touch. By gritting your teeth and pushing with all your strength can truly be called a goal. So our society really should give young people more practical goals that they can actually see and actually reach, and stop feeding them so many empty slogans spoken by people who do not understand their pain.
舔狗经济终于玩不下去了，发现没？
The simp economy has finally become impossible to keep going. Have you noticed? Now a lot of men would rather stay single than spend money on women. The clearest data is right around us. From 2025 to 2026, online flower sales for May 20 dropped by 40%. Red roses that once sold for 80 yuan a stem now cannot even find buyers at 30 yen. High-end dining orders on Meituan fell by 40%, and nightclub traffic plunged by an even more shocking 77%. Those once heartbroken top spenders who used to throw money into live stream rooms for their goddesses have now become men who only watch without sending anything. Those boys who once lived frugally for 3 months just to buy one designer bag for a woman are now more willing to spend that money on game top-ups or on a fishing rod. It feels like Chinese men have suddenly all awakened at once. They no longer want to be that humble ATM machine, and they no longer want to pay such a high price for that vain and illusory thing called emotional value. So what exactly happened behind all this? Did men become poorer, or have they truly seen through the pink trap laid out by capital? To understand this collapse, we first need to trace it back to the source. Who exactly was manufacturing China's simp culture? Just looking at the current environment right now, if all of us chose to lie flat, if we stopped pursuing medical care, stopped pursuing education, stopped pursuing houses and cars, and only asked for enough to eat and enough to wear, then tell me, what kind of society would we become?
我刚刷到一个有意思的话题就是
I just came across an interesting topic. Why is it that young people today no longer think it is scary to end their bloodline? There was one comment below it that hit especially hard. It said, "You do not even know what your great-grandfather's name was. So what throne do you think you are inheriting?" The wording was rough, but the logic was not wrong. For ordinary people like us, we do not have family wealth to pass down, and our genes are not so exceptional that they absolutely must be preserved. So then this pressure about inheritance, what exactly are we even inheriting? And besides, in the past, one of the harshest insults was to say someone would die childless. But how do young people curse each other now? They say, "I hope you have 8 sons." Look at that. Now having too many children has become a curse, not a blessing. And from an even more practical angle, compared with ending the bloodline, what scares me more is losing electricity and losing internet. That is something I truly cannot live without. As for growing old with no one by your side, honestly, these days during holidays and family gatherings, all those relatives passing gift money back and forth make everything look lively on the surface. But when something actually happens, who runs fastest is another question entirely. So it is not that young people are cold-hearted. It is that we have finally done the math clearly. Instead of worrying about what happens 100 years from now, it is better to first make sure today's life is lived comfortably.
年轻人不恋爱不结婚就是时代的悲剧。
Young people not dating and not getting married is a tragedy of the times. Do you see this kindergarten behind me? It has closed down because there are not enough children enrolling, and kindergartens of this size just in the area around my home alone. There are already 2 that have shut down. There is also a wedding photography studio that had been open for 9 years, and it closed too. A large number of people lost their jobs. When you really see it, it is heartbreaking. Now, when I see people online encouraging young people not to date, not to marry, and not to have children, I honestly feel those people have very short memories. I have also received consultations from parents trying to find partners for their children. They spent their whole lives raising excellent children. But when those children get time off, all they do is lie at home and do nothing. They would rather keep cats and dogs than get married and raise children. From the anti-Japanese war to the founding of the nation, how much sacrifice did it take? How many countless fellow countrymen gave everything just so we could have this good life today? We have only just had enough to eat for a few short days. And now if everyone chooses not to marry and not to have children, then very soon we will face large-scale closures of maternity hospitals, postpartum care centers, schools, restaurants, clothing businesses, and industry after industry. In that process, not a single one of us will be able to escape untouched. So I still hope everyone can look at love and marriage rationally. A beautiful marriage and welcoming the birth of a new life are among the happiest experiences in this world. Do not look at those people online who failed in marriage and then assume your marriage will fail too. There are still plenty of people who get married, have children, and live very happy lives right this world is not made up of bad people alone. There are still many good men and good women who are worthy of true love. In this whole process, all we need to do is learn how to choose well.
过去30年，中国经济经历了狂飙突进，大量
If we look at the latest numbers, this is no longer just a feeling. It is already a very clear signal of a deep social shift. In 2025, China recorded only about 7.92 million newborns, while the number of deaths reached 11.31 million. The natural population growth rate fell to negative 2.41 per thousand, and the total population declined for the fourth consecutive year. At the same time, the number of registered marriages in 2025 rose to 6.76 million couples, up about 10.8% from the low point in 2024, but still only around half of the 13.47 million couples recorded at the peak in 2013. In other words, what is happening now is not just about young men and women no longer wanting to date, get married, or have children. At a deeper level, many young people are recalculating the entire equation of life income, the cost of raising children, housing pressure, unstable jobs, and the growing feeling that no matter how hard they work, it is still difficult to change their future. When the number of births remains far below the number of deaths, and marriage shows only a slight rebound while still staying at a very low level, then the real question is no longer, are young people becoming selfish? The real question is, does society today still give them enough confidence to believe in tomorrow? So what do you think is the real cause behind China's wave of no dating, no marriage, and no children? Is it because men can no longer carry the financial burden? Is it because women's expectations have become too high? Or is the deeper root of the problem an economy that has made both sides lose faith in the future? Leave your opinion in the comments below. Your view may be controversial, but that is exactly why this discussion matters. Subscribe to the channel for more in-depth analysis of Chinese society and the economy. And share this video if you believe this issue deserves more attention. Thank you for watching. Goodbye, and see you in the next video.